to
Hello!
Hello
And welcome
to Nightmare Nation.
your favorite paranormal podcast where we talk about all things scary and spooky.
Usually haunted locations around the world, sometimes suggested by you, our wonderful listeners.
And sometimes UFOs and rituals and all sorts of fun things that are supposed to spook you.
You know, we talk about rituals a lot, but I guess beyond like Ouija boards, we haven't really done anything like cult related, and we keep saying we're going to do it, and we haven't yet. It feels like a major opportunity.
We should put that on our list, considering we've got like 4 other things on our list right now. We're like set for the next 2 months.
I know. There's officially a backlog of locations. So if you want to get a place in, you submit your application now because it's going to be a while. So just saying.
God, we've never been this ahead before.
I know. It's all this time at home giving us extra time to plan because we don't have anything else to do with our lives.
Pretty much.
Which is why we're recording over Skype, so thank you all for being so patient with our kind of odd audio these days. It's really difficult trying to record and not being able to like see each other's faces, and we can't have our cameras on because the internet's too crappy, so it's a struggle.
We appreciate your patience with us during this time.
We do. You guys are the best. Thanks.
Yeah.
And nothing gives me greater pleasure than being able to scare you silly while you're stuck at home during a global pandemic. So, you know.
I'm just glad that we're still able to provide you with this awesome content every week to help you through this quarantine if you are still in quarantine.
Because, you know, everyone wants just some extra fear on top of all the normal fear of daily living these days. Let's just add some extra in there.
Exactly. But this is a different fear, okay? This is ghost hauntings.
This is true. Very different. Anders and I have been watching more horror movies than ever, and it's the best.
It's pretty great.
Yep. Did you have a Ghost Hunters marathon?
I had Ghost Adventures last week on like both Thursday and Friday. I was on a nice kick, and that's where I got half of our ideas for our next shows.
Nice.
Thank you, Ghost Adventures.
Thanks.
And I'm thinking I'm going to try and find Ghost Hunters. I do have season 1 on DVD, so I can watch it.
I know you do. We watched that in high school. It's so great. Back when I was a wee baby and brand new to the world of horror and ghosts.
Before I got her into the deep, dark holes of horror.
Yeah, thanks for, like, converting me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Turning me on to the wonderful world of scary things.
It's the best.
By the way, I'm Annie.
Hey, Annie, I'm Anna.
Hey! How's it going?
So great. Well, friends, today we are taking you to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
The one and only.
I love Gettysburg so much. It's just so fascinating, and the history and the battle, and it's just all haunted.
I know. It's so crazy. And I guess for some reason in my mind, I was thinking, and this just goes to show how little I know about U.S. history. Like, I know we all learned it in high school, and I remember, like, I learned it at the time, and then not having to actively recall the information over the past 10 years made me forget it all. But I was thinking that Gettysburg was, like, further south. I forgot it was all the way as far north as Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really crazy. And I was like, wait, do I have the right town? Like, am I looking at the right place? I'm like, nope, it is the Battle of Gettysburg in Pennsylvania. So
that's pretty freaking sweet. Well, I mean, it really isn't because it's war, but
I mean, it's awful. A lot of people died, but it is fascinating for those of us who are interested in history.
Exactly. Yes. I find all that stuff so fascinating, and it's just so cool, and everything is just so haunted, and I just really would love to go to Gettysburg.
Well, and I didn't realize until I started researching that they turned the battlefield into a national park. Like, it's managed by the National Park Services, which is so cool.
And they've got tours that go around, and I think they've got like little posts around the area too that like talk about what happened at certain points on the battlefield.
That's so cool. That'd be awesome to go there and just walk through the park.
Yeah, so we actually, like we say with everything else, need to go to Gettysburg because I
wasn't expecting you to say that.
Oh, not at all.
No.
But actually, I want to go to Gettysburg real bad.
We'll
It's
add
like
it
as
to the
bad
road
as
trip.
go to Germany to go see the concentration camps.
Yes. Oh, I've heard that's so amazing. I had a coworker who went last fall and they said it was like simultaneously the coolest and most like awful thing they've ever seen in their whole life. And you just feel a weight over your shoulders when you're there. It's just
Oh,
the
I'm
air
sure.
feels different. It's crazy. I'm sure it's haunted too. Like it's gotta be.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure they don't politicize it because it's a concentration camp.
Yeah, it'd
So,
be kind of disrespectful to be like, hey, paranormal investigators, come check it out.
right?
That'd be
Like,
a little
no,
insensitive. Just
that's
like
not.
the orphanage in Owatonna where they don't let people come investigate because they want to be respectful of all the children that died there, which I think is cool. So,
Yeah, I agree.
well, it's an interesting point because you talk about like the city of Gettysburg or the town, I guess, of Gettysburg, town, city. I don't
Mm.
know how big it is today. Is it a big town?
I think it's average size. I don't think it's like very big.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think it'd be like a mid-sized suburb potentially.
Okay. Well, so it's no surprise then that what the town is most famous for, obviously, is the battle that was fought there. So most of the information that I researched was around the battle itself because, when that's what leads to the place being haunted, obviously, with so much death and so many like bodies and all the blood that was spilt on that ground. Like that's, of course, what leads to the town being haunted. So I don't have a ton of information on the town itself, but I did attempt to do my best to summarize the battle, which you guys are just gonna have to like be nice to me. I'm not a huge like history buff, and there's kind of a lot that goes into the Civil War, so I tried to do my best to summarize and make it digestible. And I'm gonna give a huge shout out to Wikipedia, from which I generally cut and pasted most of my information. So thank you to whoever wrote the Wikipedia article because there's a lot and it's such a famous battle, and I really hope I didn't get anything wrong. So if I did, tell me because I want to know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the battle, of course, that the town is most famous for, Battle of Gettysburg, was a 3-day battle that was fought from July 1st through July 3rd in 1863, both in and around the town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So obviously it was the Union and Confederate forces during the American Civil War. So North meets South in kind of this battle that many say is kind of the tipping point for the entire Civil War itself. So Union General George Meade's Army of the Potomac defeated attacks by Confederate General Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia, stopping Lee's invasion of the North. And what's interesting and what I always kind of forget is up until that point, Lee had been undefeated, and people basically saw him as like invincible. He was like this righteous figure who like was basically seen as like he cannot be defeated. There's no stopping him, and this was the first time they did that. So that's where it was kind of a huge turning point for the war because they stopped him from invading further north, which was a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
After Lee's success at Chancellorsville in Virginia in May of 1863, he led his army through the Shenandoah Valley to begin his second invasion of the North, which was the Gettysburg campaign. So his army was feeling great. They'd had a ton of victories. They were in high spirits. And Lee wanted to basically turn the focus of the summer campaign from Northern Virginia in hopes of influencing Northern politicians to give up their prosecution of the war by going as far north as Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, or even Philadelphia. I don't really know where Harrisburg, Pennsylvania is, but I'm assuming it's further north than Gettysburg. I didn't actually look it up on a map. So basically, he wanted to like have this big display of force and say, "Hey, you guys need to stop like saying that the war is bad and stop resisting. I'm coming all the way up to northern Pennsylvania." So, under orders of President Lincoln, Major General Joseph Hooker moved his army in pursuit, but he was actually relieved of command just 3 days before the actual Gettysburg battle and replaced by Meade. So, part of me kind of wonders if the battle would have gone really differently if they had had a different general.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, they switched him out just 3 days before the battle, and it's like, man, that little move that Lincoln made might have like changed the entire outcome of the Civil War, which just like blows my mind to think about.
All of history too.
Well, yeah, like think about how many people like would or wouldn't have died, and then those people's descendants wouldn't be there, and then like that always makes me so crazy when I think about like my grandpa having survived World War II. I'm like, what if my grandpa, like most of his colleagues died during World War II? What if he died? I wouldn't be here. Like, how crazy is that?
Exactly.
So anyway, the general gets swapped out and Meade takes over 3 days before the battle. So the two armies initially collided at Gettysburg on July 1st, 1863, when Lee concentrated his forces there with the goal of trying to destroy the Union Army at Gettysburg. So they had low ridges to the northwest of town that were initially defended by a Union cavalry division under, I should have looked this up too. It's either Brigadier or Brigade General. Brigadier General. Does that sound right?
Sure. Brigade.
I'm gonna go with Brigadier General John Buford. That's probably super wrong, but that's what I'm going with. I should have looked that up.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Correct me later. So John Buford was stationed in the ridges northwest of town, and he was soon reinforced with 2 corps of Union infantry. But 2 large Confederate corps attacked from the northwest and north of town, which basically destroyed the Union lines, and all the defenders had to retreat through the streets of town to the hills just to the south. So again, a lot of this battle is happening like in the town itself. They're pulling back through the town to retreat. So there's probably bloodshed happening there again, leading to the town being haunted for sure.
Oh yeah.
On the second day of battle, most of both armies had assembled, and the Union line was laid out in a defensive formation resembling a fishhook. And in the late afternoon of that second day of battle, July 2nd, Lee launched a heavy assault on the Union left flank, and fighting was basically carried out at a couple of different locations. So Little Round Top, the Wheat Field, Devil's Den, and the Peach Orchard. So those are like 4 of the key spots during the 3-day battle where a lot of the fighting happened. Sorry, what'd you say?
I said I've got the Devil's Den to talk about.
Do you?
I do. That's one of my places.
I'm excited to hear what it is, because I was like, it's got a cool name, but like, what is it? Is it like a cave, or is it just a spot in the field? Like, I don't know. So I'm excited to hear about it.
Well, I'll let you know.
Sweet. Okay, so then on the Union right, Confederate forces escalated into full-scale assaults on Culp's Hill and Cemetery Hill, 2 other kind of famous spots in the battlefield. And all across the field, even though a lot of people died, the Union defenders held all of their lines. They were undefeated that day. So the second day was by far the largest and costliest of the entire battle, which involved over 100,000 soldiers, 20 of which were killed, wounded, captured, or went missing. So that is like the scale of a battle of being 100,000 people is crazy to me.
Damn.
The third day of battle, fighting resumed on Culp's Hill with cavalry battles ongoing in the east and south, but the main event was a famous infantry assault by 12,500 Confederate soldiers against the center of the Union line on Cemetery Ridge. So this is known as Pickett's Charge. That's one of the more famous charges of the Civil War. They basically rushed the Union soldiers, but the charge was pushed back by Union rifle and artillery fire, which basically decimated most of the Confederate army that had charged. So the battle finally ended when Lee led his troops on a retreat back to Virginia, and by the end of day 3, between 46,000 and 51,000 soldiers from both armies were killed, making the Battle of Gettysburg the most costly battle in all of U.S. history, and that's to date.
Oh, damn.
I know. It's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
On November 19th, President Lincoln used the dedication ceremony for the Gettysburg National Cemetery to honor the fallen Union soldiers and redefine the purpose of the war in the historic Gettysburg Address. So here's some interesting facts. I almost called it fun facts about the battle, but it decided that might be in poor taste because it's not really all that fun about it, but some interesting facts about the battle. Is there was actually, despite the fact that a lot of the fighting and people were running through town, there was only 1 civilian death during the entire thing.
Wasn't it the lady in the house?
Yeah, it was 20-year-old Jenny Wade, who was hit by a stray bullet that passed through her kitchen when she was making bread. But I thought, it's really tragic for her, but actually I was kind of impressed that was the only civilian casualty in the whole thing, which is just kind of mind-blowing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. After the battle, 84 medals of honor were awarded to Union soldiers for their actions of bravery and heroism during the battle, and they were awarded dating back to basically during the time of the Civil War all the way up through the 21st century. So in 2014, Barack Obama awarded a Medal of Honor for heroism to a man named Alonzo Cushing in 2014. So they're still going back and awarding posthumous medals to people for acts of bravery, which I think is kind of cool.
Cool.
Yeah, they're like, it doesn't matter that you died 150 years ago, you still deserve to be known for what you did, which I just think is kind of cool and
Yeah,
gives me chills a little bit.
absolutely.
Another interesting fact is that the battle was primarily fought at Gettysburg rather than anywhere else, mainly because it had a large system of roads that led to it. And that's how the armies were able to basically travel there efficiently. So Gettysburg, I guess at the time, the population was only about 2,000, and it was kind of a town that was on its way to becoming a booming town in Pennsylvania. And they had this like intricate system of like 10 different main roads that led there. And that's mostly why the battle happened there, which I thought was cool. Like, I guess I never really thought about how and why the battle came to happen at Gettysburg itself, and like why not anywhere else. But that's why.
Huh, that's neat.
So
I didn't
neat.
know that.
Yeah,
That's
so basically it just like allowed that many people to travel there, because I guess like they're not going to go stomping through like the woods and stuff. It makes sense that they're going to stick to the main roads. Another interesting fact, while Gettysburg was definitely the costliest war in the Civil War and U.S. history to date, it wasn't actually the largest. So there was another battle in Fredericksburg that had roughly 185,000 soldiers involved, whereas Gettysburg only had a total of 160,000 over the 3 days. So slightly bigger battle happened elsewhere, but I feel like you just don't hear as much about that one, and I don't even exactly know what happened at the Battle of Fredericksburg. I could have gone and looked it up, but I didn't.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's a lot of history in one day to look
Yeah,
up.
yeah, it was a lot. I know, my brain could hurt afterwards. So last interesting fact, and this one is kind of like grim and kind of sets the tone for what it must have been like to live there at the time, is that immediately after the battle, corpses outnumbered residents of the village by 4-1.
Holy
The
shit.
town, yeah, so town again had a population of just over 2,000 at the time. So imagine like doing body pickup detail and like having to try to go back to your normal life after the battle was over, just knowing that there was like more corpses nearby than there were people in your entire town.
And like having to bury all those. That's why I'll talk about it, but why like there's just random burial sites kind of all over the town.
Yeah, I'm sure it was just like wherever you could find room, and like the people must have been so just like, oh, it just must have been so depressing and just eerie, and like I can imagine it was probably really quiet after the battle was over. Like it just must have been so somber. Ugh.
Like, no, nope.
Yeah.
And I mean, back then battles were fought like you're like coming at each other. It's nothing what they are today. That's for sure.
I know. It's all like guerrilla warfare today, and this was just like two armies meeting in a field, and I'm so glad it doesn't happen that way anymore, because there's just such a loss of life. Is crazy. So just to kind of set the mood back to grim, think about that, just a giant pile of corpses. Yep. In case you were getting
dead
happy.
bodies everywhere. It's fine.
Yeah. So after the battle, in 1864, a group of concerned citizens established the Gettysburg Battlefield Memorial Association, whose purpose was to preserve portions of the battlefield as a memorial to the Union Army that fought there. So this group transferred their land holdings to the federal government in 1895, 31 years later, and that's when it got designated as a national military park. So a federally appointed commission of Civil War veterans oversaw the park's development as a memorial to both armies by identifying and marking the lines of battle, which would be super cool to go and like look at the actual lines where the troops were standing today, I feel like, if they're still marked.
That'd be awesome.
Administration of the park was transferred to the Department of Interior National Park Service in 1933, which continues its mission to protect, preserve, and interpret the Battle of Gettysburg and the Gettysburg Address to park visitors, which is super cool. So right now with the coronavirus going on, the museum and visitor center are closed, but all the battlefield trails and everything else in the park outside is open. So if you guys are in the area, anyone nearby, go check it out. It's available.
Heck yeah, go out and take a look. Let us know if you find any ghosts.
Yeah, snap a picture, send it in.
It'd be neat.
There was your, 10-minute crash course of Battle of Gettysburg. Hopefully I did it justice. Mostly, again, thank you, Wikipedia. I also got some information from mps.gov and battlefields.org.
Ooh, that sounds fancy.
So fancy. And I kind of want to just sit and browse through battlefields.org now and look at all the different famous battlefields around them.
All right. Well, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania is just littered with ghosts and all sorts of things. Like, I was researching and it's just like, oh, this place is haunted, and so is this one, and so is this one, and so is this. I'm like, I could literally sit and talk for like hours upon hours on everything that's haunted and different stories and things.
Give them all to me. I want it.
I'm gonna give you as many as I can.
Sweet.
In a condensed time period that's not 5 hours.
I mean, I've got nowhere else to be, so you might as well.
Right? Fine. So, it's essentially just going to be a list of different places and what people experience and see and what these places were used for during the battle and everything. So to start off, I have the Daniel Lady Farm, which was used as the Confederate Army's field hospital. And people have said to have seen ghosts of General, I think it's Isaac Ewell, and his, I think it was supposed to be his troops of 10,000 that still haunt the farm. And then I have the
10,000 haunt the farm?
10,000, all of them.
Wow, that is a ghost party. like House of 1,000 Corpses, except farm of 10,000 ghosts is what popped in my head.
Would be the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
So then I've got the Cashtown Inn. This is a site where the first soldier was killed during the Gettysburg campaign of the Civil War. So the owners have said that they have pictures ranging from 1987 to 2007 that have strange orbs that appear and also skeletons that show up in the photo.
What?
I was like, that's really kind of weird.
That's super weird. Like, only in the picture there's like a skeleton?
Yeah, there's just a skeleton just in the picture.
But like not in real life. Like if you go back and look, there's no skeleton.
No. That
is so crazy.
And then the next one, it's gone.
I've never heard of anything like that before.
Exactly. I was like, most of the time it's just like an apparition, some sort of orb or like misty something, but never just like, hey, here's a skeleton. Like, that's odd.
Yeah, that's super like specific and I imagine quite vivid.
Oh gosh, yeah. I should see if we can find a picture because that'd be cool. They also have heard doors thumping, lights turning on and off on their own, and doors locking and unlocking themselves. And then I have the Gettysburg Hotel, and at this hotel, a ghost of a woman is reported seeing dancing in the hotel ballroom. And then investigators believe that the spirit of a Union soldier named James Culbertson still roams around the hotel. And then I've got the Balladary, I believe, the Balladary Inn, which served as a Union field hospital during the battle as well. And then according to a psychic, the inn appears to be haunted by Confederate soldiers buried underneath a nearby tennis court.
Oh, what?
Mm-hmm.
Buried under a tennis court. Oh.
Yeah. There's just bodies literally just buried around the whole town. Because like you said, you have so many corpses that you can't just have one giant mass burial area. Yeah. You'd have to dig a pretty big frickin' hole to get that many people in one. So.
Right. Oh, I can't. And I have to imagine too, there's probably bodies buried like really close, if not under like people's houses and stuff too.
Mm-hmm. It'd be crazy to like buy land out there and then start digging, and then you just dig into a dead body.
Oh my God. And just like having been undisturbed for 150 years. Oh my God. I'm like, I have both excitement and like terror chills right now from just thinking about what that would be like.
Like it's not something you want to think of because it's not normal, but at that time it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weird.
You just had to do what you had to do to try to clean up your town and like move on with daily living, and you can't Well, and it was also like not to be super gross, but it was the middle of July or beginning of July, so it was hot out. I'm sure they had to like get rid of the bodies quickly so it didn't start like they didn't start decomposing.
And start smelling up the town.
Yeah, I probably didn't need to like point that out, but it's kind of gross, but I'm
Yeah.
sure it was a real factor.
Oh yeah. So they have a ghost train. So this ghost train takes you on a 90-minute ride that takes you across the whole battlefield. And some people have reported smelling cigar smoke and seen the souls of soldiers roaming on the train or near the tracks while traveling across the battlefield. So I know I've heard, I couldn't find anything specific on the battlefield, but I know that people have just reported seeing apparitions and orbs and hearing like the drums that they used to use essentially when going to battle, hearing those playing off in the distance, footsteps off in the distance of like the soldiers coming into battle, gunshots, like literally everything.
That would be so chilling to hear like war drums from the
I think
field.
that'd be so cool.
Oh my God. When you said ghost train, I like almost peed my pants with excitement. I'm like, that sounds like the coolest thing in the whole world, especially if you get to like get a full tour of like the whole park, like if it takes you through all the like cool places. I like want to do that for my birthday. That is so cool.
Let's go. But yeah, and then throughout the town, like I said, in the battlefield, people report seeing phantom apparitions, bone-tingling cries of wounded soldiers, the Civil War music, and sounds of horse hooves as well going through the town. So I found a story from this one I found on National Geographic. And it was a story of two ladies who went out to Gettysburg and I think like spent the weekend or something. And they did a couple ghostly tours because they have over, I think they said like 20 different companies now in Gettysburg that are ghost tour companies that just take you around the city or the town or whatever and point out all the different haunted locations and what people have reported seeing and everything. So one of their stories was, so they chose one of the ghost tours to go on. They met in front of the historic Dobbin House. It was an old inn, and the ghost of a Confederate soldier is said to stare out one of the second floor windows. And then there's one house where a family fled a while ago because of how haunted their house was, and they just didn't want to deal with it anymore. That they just fled, I think, in the middle of the night, and the computer is still on and the TV still glows at night. Like they literally just up and left and we're just like, nope, done.
What other house did we do? Was it the Conjuring house where they originally like one of the people just like ran out like naked in the middle of the night and just like left like screaming and never looked back?
I'm pretty sure it was. I think so.
God, like what do you have to see to like just pack up all your stuff and leave in the middle of the night? Like shit had to have been going down.
Oh God, yeah. And then they also reported at the Farnsworth Inn, there's a spirit of a little boy named Jeremy who was injured in a horse and carriage accident, and he can be seen in the house playing marbles.
Aww.
Yeah, little Jeremy play marbles.
How does one play marbles? What do you do? Is there like an actual game that you do with marbles?
Yes. So you have like you use a string and you make a circle, and then you have specific marbles in that circle, and then you have a bigger marble, and you use the marble that's in your hand to flick it into the circle to try and get the marbles out.
Huh. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I always just thought they were
at least I think that
I liked the way they like felt in my hand. I never like played with them like an actual game as a kid. I just liked to like look at them.
There is an actual game. It's
cool. Thank you. Now I know.
You're welcome. I'm just chock full of knowledge for you. So the Devil's Den, like you had talked about. I actually had to look it up because I didn't have any information written down. But it is a historical site where it's just a bunch of boulders that are stacked together, like in a formation, and it was used as a spot during the war for the soldiers to hide behind when shooting. And so at the Devil's Den, there is reported a young male apparition that appears in pictures wearing a large floppy hat, and he'll show up in one or two of the photos and then he disappears in the next ones. And then people often experience their cameras and smartphones stop working, or their fully charged batteries will drain. So, I mean, if you think about it, it's probably pretty haunted and probably has a lot of energy just because it was essentially in the battlefield.
Yeah, it's like a key point where some of the fighting happened, so that makes sense. And it's called the Devil's Den. I mean, you're just asking to be haunted like that.
Pretty much. So then we have the Jenny Wade house, like Annie had talked about.
Yeah.
It is reported to be America's scariest haunted house, as is every other location we've ever reported on is the scariest and most haunted place on Earth.
Oh, yes, every single one. There cannot be just like a list of haunted places. They all have to be the most haunted and the scariest.
Exactly. It's dumb. I found this on onlyinyourstate.com. So, like Annie had talked about, Jenny Wade, she lived in the house and was hit by a stray bullet while she was baking in the kitchen. And Wade is said to still roam the house along with several children. Oh. So people feel sudden rushes of cold air on the second floor, and others have felt arms of little children holding on to their legs.
No. No, I don't like that.
I thought you'd enjoy that one.
Yeah, just like little ghosty arms grabbing you, like teeny tiny little kid arms. Like, oh, there's something so creepy about that.
It really is, but they're probably just so scared they don't know what's going on.
I know. I hope they're not like stuck thinking it's the war forever and like thinking that they're constantly in danger. That would be sad.
So then we have, I believe it's Satches, S-A-C-H-S. Sachets.
Sachet.
Shiz. I don't know. So many covered bridge. This one is also reported to be the most haunted spot in Gettysburg as well.
Oh, okay. Two in the same town? Come on.
Yes. Everything is just so haunted in Gettysburg.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this was a site of a public hanging of 3 Army deserters. So I'm assuming that they just decided that they were done with the battle and wanted to leave, and then they were caught and hung. Hanged.
I think hanged is right.
So people see apparitions, smell cigar smoke, and hear voices, and they have a feeling of being touched when no one is around them.
A lot of cigar smoke happening. That was true for our last episode too, and like the last couple we've had reports of cigar smoke.
And I'm sure probably like a lot of the generals and higher ups are probably just like in the back chilling, smoking cigars, hoping everyone is doing okay out on the battlefield. You know.
Yeah. One of the other interesting facts that I didn't write down, but I might as well because I'm just going to say it now, is that I think there was about 120 generals involved in the battle, and I think 9 were wounded or killed. So most of them escaped. Yeah, or got away with their lives at least. So
they just hung back. I mean, that's the time to be a little bit higher up.
Yeah.
When you're going to battle, you want to be like Top Gun, so then you don't have to go out there.
Right, I know. Like, you got to work on getting that promotion, so you get to sit back and call the shots. But yeah, I don't know how involved they were in the actual combat, if like they were down there fighting and they just didn't get killed, or if they were more so calling back and like directing troops. I'm not really sure. I didn't really read about it, but
I'm sure they were probably directing troops and getting more people in and doing all that sorts of stuff.
Smoking cigars.
Yeah, the usual.
Yeah.
So then 2 more locations that I have. One is Gettysburg College. This story is kind of cool. I kind of liked it. The Gettysburg College was a field hotel for both sides during the battle. and one story that dates back to the early 20th century. So there were two college employees that entered the elevator and pushed the specific button to whatever floor they wanted to go to. But instead of going to the specific floor they wanted it, the elevator took them straight to the basement. And then when the doors opened, they saw a bloody Civil War operating room with doctors working on saving soldiers. And then apparently a doctor started walking towards them, and that's when the elevator doors shut and it started moving again to bring them to the proper floor that they wanted. And then later they went back down with a security guard and there was nothing in the basement.
Oh my God. Sorry, that story just like never stopped. And every time I thought it was going to be over, it just kept going. And that like straight out of a horror movie. Like that sounds like it was like written by a script writer or like a director of a horror film. It was like, ooh, and then the elevator is going to take them down into the basement. There's going to be ghost doctors operating on tables. Like, oh my God. It'd
be terrifying to see.
That is like the most fascinating like paranormal encounter I think I've ever heard. That is so cool.
I know. I love that one. When I found it, I was like, oh, this is so cool. It's just so different from everything else that you hear. Like, it's crazy. The last one I have for you is the Dobbin House Tavern. So this was actually a stop on the Underground Railroad. And this location hosts spirits of former slaves who meander throughout the building. And there are reports of seeing blood splatters that appear and disappear on the floor throughout the tavern.
No.
Yeah.
You quit.
Nope. It's a true story.
Oh, that's so creepy and unsettling.
Uh-huh. There was we went out to, oh gosh, I think it was Tennessee for my cousin's wedding. And we went to the Battle of Franklin. We went and saw a plantation because I'm insanely fascinated with that part of history as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like the plantation was absolutely beautiful. We got to tour the house. But upstairs was where it was used as essentially like a hospital where they took some of the soldiers. And in certain spots upstairs on the floor, there's still blood stains that were soaked in wood.
Just like the wood was stained and it's just soaked in. It's not like a ghostly blood stain. It's like an actual blood stain.
It's an actual blood stain from the battle that soaked into the wood that they didn't clean.
That's so fascinating. And how old that blood stain must have been. Oh, that's cool.
It was the coolest thing ever. I mean, it's probably not cool for whoever was actually there, but
no, it's awful. I mean, so when we say cool, right? Not like, hey, that's awesome. I love that. You're just like, wow, I'm fascinated by that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
cool
exactly.
In this context.
yeah. I didn't see any ghosts at that plantation, but it was just kind of cool to see one and like go through the history of that battle. And everything. So,
yeah, I bet.
So that is the Battle of Gettysburg and the Haunting of Gettysburg, my friends.
Wow, there's so many good ghost ones.
Right?
That's fascinating.
They just kept coming and coming and coming and coming and just didn't stop.
I mean, again, so cool, but it's so tragic that it resulted from something very, very awful and so many lives lost. But
right.
Well, good job picking that one, Anna. That was Anna's idea, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, so, friends, let us know of different places, haunting places, cults, whatever it may be that you want us to cover on our awesome podcast.
Anything ghost or scary related, we're not too picky. We're pretty flexible.
Yeah, we are.
We want to hear your stories, too. Send in any stories of anything creepy or paranormal or unexplainable that may have happened to you or someone you know. Our email is nightmarenation19@gmail.com.
You can find us on the Instagram or the Facebook. Instagram is nightmare.nation19 and Facebook is nightmare_nation19. Check us out. We got some cool content, some really awesome pictures of us, and pretty cool content.
Pretty much. We'll make sure to take more pictures when it's safe to do so that you guys don't have to just look at us with our silly late night selfies from previous hangout sessions.
I mean, I'm sure it just keeps you interested and, excited about seeing what we're up to.
Yeah, we'll tell ourselves that and pretend like it's true. But
yeah.
Make sure you leave a review if you like us, or if you don't, you can send a private message, preferably. But make sure you subscribe and leave us a rating if you feel so inclined. And stay safe, you guys. Don't use a Ouija board.
Yeah, don't get attacked by the devil.
Yep.
Don't do satanic rituals. And
don't go outside. Stay home. Don't get sick.
Yeah.
Be smart. All right.
All right, friends. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.